my. This is not good. Oh, gosh. Not good.
Some people don't make it in tech sales, and we're going to talk about why. Chris, why don't people make it in tech sales?
I mean, that's a great question. Not everyone makes it in tech sales. There's a few reasons. One is they have all the ambition and potential in the world, but they choose the wrong company.
And do you work in tech sales?
I do. I actually was at Oracle, then Google. Now I'm at a late stage startup. So I've been in this industry for 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So continue on your thought. I just want to make sure everyone knows you actually work in tech sales. You've been doing it for a decade.
Yeah, I've done this for a few moments. So, but some people pick the wrong company. They're so eager to break into tech sales and they have all the potential in the world, but they don't do their homework. And they join this like no-name company that has no differentiation. Differentiation means that you're solving a problem that's relevant for a prospect or a customer in a unique way that's different from your competitors. And that's what helps you actually sell the solution.
And I want to add to that point,
Yeah.
what I've seen is self-doubt leading to people lowering their standards. What I mean by that is, hey, should I go directly to try and become an account executive, or should I take a step back and start as a sales development rep despite maybe being a few years older than everyone else? What people do is they'll compromise and they'll say, you know what, I'm just going to go for the easiest opportunity possible so that I can then maybe leapfrog to a better opportunity down the line. So I always encourage people, apply for companies and roles that you're actually not qualified for, because it's going to set you up for success. Because if you go directly to a role that you think you're qualified for, but you don't actually want, but you're doing it just to try and get it on your resume to get to another company, then it's never going to work because you're not actually serious about it in the first place.
Really good point. And another reason the company might be the wrong company is you didn't do your homework, and they actually are running out of cash runway, especially with startups. Like you got to understand the financial condition of the company. What if they're like running out of funding and their last funding round was like years ago, and they don't have enough dollars and cents to keep the business running?
Beyond just the wrong company, what are other reasons people don't make it? I know you have outlined some other thoughts as far as once you're in the role.
So people who are overly relational, Mr. or Mrs. Nice Guy, end up not doing well. In fact, the relational people who are overly relational and worrying about pleasing the prospect and not ruffling feathers end up at the bottom of the totem pole. Because in sales, what I'll say is that you need to be able to push back on the customer sometimes, challenge their thinking when they're like not being rational in order to produce a better outcome. So I think that's really important. Like recently I was in a negotiation for a big deal, and the SVP of operations and controller came into the conversation. I knew he was going to negotiate and push and pull. And he asked me for concessions that honestly weren't reasonable when we already had given them some concessions. And I had to hold strong and be a little bit difficult in that moment. And I'm glad I held strong, right? Because that means a little more profit for us.
I want you guys to comment down below, if Chris and I were both trying to sell to the same customer, who would give her a bigger discount?
Oh, shit.
Who would maintain pricing power, Chris or I? I'll leave it up to you. Chris, what are some other reasons why people don't make it in tech sales? We've talked about choosing the wrong company. We've talked about
being too relational, too nice, being a pushover.
What are some other
not
reasons
asking
so
and
people
negotiating
can decide,
for what you want?
Is this the right career for me? And then two, if I'm already in the career and I'm having second thoughts, what do they need to look for?
No question about it. If you're overly analytical, that can prevent your success in tech sales. I'm an analytical guy, and it can be a superpower to be thoughtful and analytical when making strategic decisions. But in business, speed is everything. And sometimes we overanalyze when making decisions, like how to prospect and reach out to a customer, what to say on a cold call, when in reality, we need to click dial and make the call. We need to reach out. And some people just over-rotate rather than taking action. And Jeff Bezos at Amazon talks about two-way doors and one-way doors. A one-way door is when you make a decision and there's no going back, so you really need to analyze. And a two-way door is when you make a decision where you can actually go back on it and make adjustments. And in sales, there's a lot of two-way door decisions, and ultimately you just need to make action or take action. And Bezos also talks about like, hey, you need like 70% of information to move forward on a decision, and you should live by that, because at the end of the day, like learning through doing and taking action is everything in sales and produces results, and it is a numbers game, isn't it? So that's just thinking out one thought. I've seen time and time again, it's important to just take action rather than overanalyze and slow yourself down.
And the final reason I would add is, speaking of results, is one fails to produce results. Ultimately, as you know, it is a performance-based career. It's a numbers game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And no matter how much we're liked by our manager, the VP, no matter how much we love the company, if we're not performing and we're not profitable to the organization anymore, we are at risk of losing our job. And it's a tough reality to swallow, and it's the non-fun part about what we're doing, but I think it's important to call that out about performance really matters. It matters more at other places than others. And tying it back to the first point, if you find yourself at a company that does not value performance or accountability or results, then how far is that company going to go? As opposed to a company that really cares about performance, accountability, and results.
Okay, I have two more. I'll keep them quick, but I have two more.
Yeah.
Can I dive in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Extra.
Yeah, bonus,
Hit
guys.
the thumbs up now.
Let's go. So if your self-worth is attached to your performance and the opinions of others, oh gosh, this is going to be the worst roller coaster ride, a nightmare ever, this path on tech sales. You're not going to survive. So it's important to realize...
Emotionally. You will not survive emotionally or psychologically.
Exactly, man. It's like you need to be able to make a cold call and get rejected and then bounce back quickly. And I've talked to people who they were only able to make like 2 cold calls in 30 minutes because they would be so rattled emotionally after getting rejected. Overanalyzing and taking rejection or the opinion of someone who doesn't even know you personally. So what you do there is you want to separate your sense of self-esteem from people's opinions and the outcomes, knowing that we're all born into this world, I believe, as 10 out of 10s. And nothing can touch that. That value is intrinsic. And what happens is when you see yourself as a 10 out of 10 and then you get rejected, if you actually do believe you're a 10 out of 10, your performance will rise back to the level of your beliefs even after you're rejected. But people who see themselves as a 5 out of 10, what's funny is they could have a great call, but then they see themselves as a 5 out of 10 and they actually might have their performance dip. So that's another thing, is to be able to not be so caught up in the opinions of others and keep going, and know that even if you have a bad year in sales, which can happen, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have bad years in the future. I've seen some of the greatest people in our space that are authors and speakers that were fired for underperformance.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And then they went on to close like $50 million deals. So the last one, guys, the last reason why people fail on this path is a lack of focus, treating all opportunities equally. The reality is, I learned this lesson over the past years working at a startup, where I was able to reach out to any and all prospects in the United States, even abroad. I realized I was chasing these minnows, small opportunities that weren't worth my time, and some of them actually cost the business money. And so being very intentional to only focus on the most lucrative opportunities, whether it's within a set book of business or more broadly if you have more ability to reach out to any customer you want, that focus leads to success. Haven't you found that to be the case?
The Pareto principle, it's that 20% of your activity will account for 80% of your results.
Yeah.
So you can extrapolate that out to think, well, what cohort of accounts will result in the highest output?
Yeah.
Ultimately driving revenue. What opportunities should I focus on? What activities should I focus on? And it's all about focusing on the activities that work, have worked, and that are the highest leverage, because that's what drives results, that's what gets us paid, and that's what keeps us happy.
I mean, would you rather close $25,000 deals or one $500,000 deal?
I'd rather close the big
Come on!
whale. I'm going for the big whale.
Which one's going to get you paid?
All right, well, I think that's enough for this video. If you have not already hit the thumbs up button now, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to this channel. I'm going to leave a link to Chris Bussing's YouTube channel down below. A lot of great tech sales content. This was fun, Chris.
Dude, had a great time, Trent. Can't wait for the next one.